smorgasbord.
We can make it! We set perimeters.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Twisted Locker, your definitive horror podcast. Today we're going to be doing another classic review, and I mean classic. We've got 1990s Tremors, directed by Ron Underwood, an absolute classic. What have you got for me, Jenks?
Right. I love this film. The only reason I picked this for our classic is because I happened to watch the other day. My wife and I have been looking at different films to watch, and it's just slim pickings on new stuff. And we said, let's just start watching old stuff. We watched Source Code, we watched Starship Troopers, some classics, and we stuck on what?
I watched Tremors and then Starship Troopers right after it, 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so violent. Stuck on Tremors. And I watched this when it first came out, right? And no one had heard of it. Watched it with her uncle. And then it's just, he got it straight when it came on video. And back then, back in 1990, unless you're a film magazine, you didn't know if it was straight to video or if it was in the cinema, if you're not in the know. Now you kind of know everything if it's a big hit or whatever. It's a very simple story. It's basically Jaws, but instead of a shark, you got this horrible worm thing that lives underground, and it's in a little town called Perfection, and it's taking people out one by one, and it's sensitive to noise, so everyone's got to stay quiet. The only safe place to be is on top of a rock because the vibrations don't reach it. And do you know what? It is so good. You got Kevin Bacon as Valentine, sorry, as this sort of like slacker handyman. His partner in crime is Fred Ward, Earl, and they just do odd jobs around the small town. They're desperate to leave, but they can't leave because it keeps on having different deaths, people they know, because everybody knows each other in this small town. And the very simple sort of B-movie thing of people getting picked off one by one. And then kind of shit hits the fan when they realize that these horrible, like sort of prehistoric worm things. I think they're called graboids. I think and it's just, for me, I was telling my wife when we watched it, if I were to make my own B movie, and I don't mean a bad B movie like Sharknado, I'm talking about the good B movies, I would use Tremors and not Street Trash. Okay, that's a shit B movie.
You need to leave Street Trash go, Jenks, honestly. Watch it. You need to watch it now before you continue to slag it off. You need to watch it and make your mind up because you're mentioning it too many times now and you haven't even seen it. Put your money where your mouth is and watch it. I bet you love it.
All right, okay, I will.
Better than Tremors?
No fucking way, as if. So you put me off now. You ruined my train of thought.
You done that to yourself, pal.
I know. If I were to make it my own sort of B movie, I would use Tremors as a template. You got the small town. They're isolated by the rocks and the fact it's in the middle of nowhere. You've got a small pocket of characters, lack of communication because of, there's no mobile phones in those days. The radios are down. And it's just like Jaws is classed as a B movie, and Jaws is a masterpiece. I'm not going to slag off Jaws. I get lynched. But it isn't as tight as this. Jaws is quite slow in parts, takes a long while to get going. There's the last half is almost his own movie. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want a straight up paint by numbers, awesome B movie with likable characters, Tremors, if you haven't seen it already, Tremors is the one for you. What do you think of that?
You haven't left much for me, to be honest, Jenks. I mean, do you want to just do this video yourself? Because you've just taken everything I was going to say.
So let me go first.
No, what's great about this one, right, is the dynamic between Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward. Yeah. Straight off the bat, they sell you this film just off their relationship alone. You can really feel that they've known each other for years with their banter and back and forths. And I would literally watch them two together in any film, even if it wasn't a horror. I want to see more of that dynamic because the biggest selling point of this film is them two. And mainly it's aged fantastically as well. Same as you, Jenks, you mentioned, I've seen this film countless times, by the way, but you mentioned about doing this one as a review. So obviously I chucked it back on just to give myself a little refresh. And I think it might have been a couple of years since I seen it. And it's just aged so well. It's
Yeah.
brilliantly. The graboids as well, they still look great. Specifically them burrowing through the grounds, that great shot where you see them flying through underneath. There's
Yeah.
so many awesome scenes in this film. I don't want to give anything away. Like you've said in previous video, Jenks, there's no use in spoiling things for people, even if it's an old film. So I don't want to go too much in detail about what happens in there. But every time they're around is amazing. They haven't aged one day. They still look fantastic. It's still gripping. And what you said as well, Jenks, like you've got this small town with a population of 14 called Perfection. And I love one location movies. No, it's not quite one location, but it's a one area movie. And
Yeah.
I love it. You're put in this world with these small group of characters. They've got a situation, and then you're just with these guys for an hour and a half. Now they're my favorite movies. They're the
Yeah.
movies I tend to rotate to the most. And this movie does it perfectly. Like you mentioned, Jenks, about it being a B movie. Now, it's a B movie concept, but it's made like a Hollywood movie, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
got that B movie concept, but it's not made for laughs in a bad way. It's not made to be silly, but obviously it's a bit of a comedy.
Yeah.
And what's weird about this one, right, is that it feels like a feel good movie. It's really
Mm.
bright and colourful. The characters are really likable, but it is a horror. People get killed, and obviously there's
Yeah.
disasters. I just love this film. I think it's perfect. I can't say much for the sequels, specifically Tremors 3 when you've got the fat in flying ones. Absolutely
You know,
ridiculous. I haven't seen any past 4. That's my
uh,
cutoff. I haven't
do you
seen any
know,
past
right?
then.
I watched number two, and number two had a half decent production. Okay, it looked like it with a little bit of money behind it, and because it came off the back of like Jurassic Park with the raptors, they just turned the Graboids into these raptors, and it just was like, well, that's ridiculous. That's like making Jaws with legs and going on land. Now I know there is a short film. I think it's called Land Shark, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw a clip. I saw a clip of like I think it's number 7 now they're on, and Michael Gross, who plays Bert,
But
the
yeah.
gun toting with his wife Heather, he's a great character, and nothing wrong with him doing the sequels, you know. But I saw a clip of the new one. I think it's called A Cold Day in Hell, and it's set in the snow, but it's in the desert, and they've just turned the tone down to be white, and you can clearly see it's the desert, not the
Yeah,
snow,
yeah.
or the other way around. I know, I think it's Cold Day in Hell, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh God, that is grim. But uh, one of the unsung heroes of this film as well is Fred Ward's awesome hair. He has got the best hair of an old
Pisses me
guy
off. Oh, I know.
ever. His hair lays down to his teeth, and he looks about 50 in the film. He reminds me a little bit like John Beth. Is it Bethanel, Punisher?
John
Got
Berthnell,
that sort
yeah.
of
Ah, he does
Berthanel.
that.
Same boxer's nose. Yeah, but he's a
They
great
look
character.
tough but
Fred,
approachable. That's what I find with those. They look tough but
yeah,
approachable, like.
yeah. It's an awesome film, and I highly recommend it. Do not watch the sequels. Don't even bother. If you love Tremors, you think, well, I want a bit more. It's like, no, it's not that type of sequel. They are fucking trash. I think the third one's set in the cowboy in the western or something, isn't it? Awful.
No, it's the fourth one. Fourth one, yeah. Fourth
Oh,
one's back in the
yeah.
cowboy era. Third one's the one with the fat in flying ones, which is just
I
ridiculous.
haven't seen that
But
one. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, like you said, Jenks, number one, absolute perfection. If you want to see this film, watch number one on its own. It works as a standalone movie. That's all we got time for. Catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.